And we'll see you again and you guys in about 2 hours, okay? All right, guys, now we're back. Our dough is chilling. So while it's chilling and we've got that 2 hour break, we're going to go ahead and make the filling. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a little bit of butter in this pan. And then we're going to add some onions and some mushrooms to that. And we're going to just start to saute those till they become nice and soft and translucent. So in go the onions as well. Nice. And so we're going to start with the onion and mushroom mixture. Again, we're going to get them nice and tender, and I'm actually going to pull them out. And the filling that we're going to do for these Piroshkis today is going to be a meat filling. And we're actually going to use a ground pork. So I want to start with the onions and mushrooms and get them going and nice and tender. But then I'm going to pull them out and set them aside and then pull the pork in. I don't want to kind of cook them at the same time because then these guys will become overly cooked. They'll start to break down too much. The mushrooms are going to release too much water by the time that the pork is browned through and cooked the way we want it. So that's why it's kind of good to do these separate batches. So once these are nice and tender, again, we're going to pull them out and set them aside, and then we'll start browning the pork and get the pork where we want it so we can build the rest of this filling. You start to hear that nice little sizzle going. Good. So not too hot because I don't want the onions to kind of burn up or over caramelize. So again, so nice and tender and translucent, but I don't want that dark color that's going to come through with those really heavily caramelized onions. So we don't have a high temperature, just enough to slowly break them down, and then nothing will burn and it won't give us that kind of like dark and bitter color and flavor. So probably another minute or so, and then we'll pull these guys out so we can then start on the pork. All right, so I think we're right where we want these onions and mushrooms. They're nice and tender. So we're going to go ahead and slide them out into that bowl right there that we've got sitting aside. And then we'll be able to start browning the pork and get the pork where we want it. All right. Perfect. If there's a few pieces left in there, that's all right. They'll just kind of add to the flavor. So let's go ahead and get the rest of the butter in. Perfect. And once this butter melts down, then we'll go ahead and add our ground pork. And so it could be the ground pork. We can substitute a very lean ground beef. You don't want anything with a high fat ratio because then that's just going to render out and have a lot of excess liquid in there that we don't necessarily want. So whatever meat you're using, make sure it's a very lean one so we don't have all that extra fat. We could skip this all together and just add rice or cabbage or even cheese. There's a lot of different variations that can go into it. But we're going to go ahead and do it with the pork today. And so we're just going to slowly start to break down that ground pork. Once that starts to brown up, then we're going to build the rest of the flavor that's going to go into this filling. So we've got the pork here, and then we're going to also add a little bit of salt and pepper, some fresh dill, a little tomato paste, and then we're also going to pour in a little dry cherry. And then that's going to simmer in with that ground pork, kind of absorb all those flavors in there. And then we'll pull the mushrooms and onions back in and then finish it with a little bit of sour cream. And then our filling will be done. And then we can come back and take a look at our Piroshki dough. So again, once we get a little bit more brown on that, we'll start to work in the rest of the filling. So keep it moving, keep it moving. Good deal. And if you do find that there is a lot of fat coming out of your pork, or if you do the beef version, before we start putting in the sherry and the tomato paste and stuff like that, if you see there's a lot of excess liquid, go ahead and drain some of that out before we put in the rest of the filling. But for us today, like I said, we're using a very, very lean, fresh ground pork, and there's not a lot rendering and coming off of it, so I think we're going to be good to just move forward. So let's go ahead and add in that salt and pepper. Very nice. The tomato paste. This is just going to give a nice kind of rich, earthy feel to it. All right, now add the sherry. And now we're going to blend all that together. And that sherry will kind of help break down that tomato paste and blend in with the pork nicely. And then you start to see that it'll start to look a little saucy in there. Now, as that kind of cooks through, that'll absorb into the pork, so it won't stay with a lot of liquid. That looks great. Now let's go ahead and dump in that fresh dill. Very good. And so we're going to get this well blended. Again, the sherry's kind of breaking down some. The tomato paste is mixed in there, so now it's a nice little glaze around the pork. We can go ahead and add those onions and mushrooms back into this mixture now. And so the pork's almost done. And so that's perfect for us because now when the onions and mushrooms go back in, they'll be able to blend in, heat back through. The pork will just be finished. And then we don't have anything that got overcooked in the process. And so we'll just let this simmer for a minute or two just to kind of build and develop that flavor. And then we're gonna, again, add the sour cream. Once that's blended in, we'll set it aside to let this cool down. And then we'll be able to start actually making our piroshki doughs and filling them with this delicious filling. Looks well blended? All right, I like it. So go ahead and turn the heat off. And we can just go ahead and put that pan aside, take it off the heat right there. Yeah. And then we're going to go ahead and work in the sour cream now. There you go. So that's all going to blend in nicely. And then we've got a beautiful filling for our Pirozhkis. I wish you could smell how amazing this is right now. The mushrooms, the tomato paste is nice and earthy. The sherry gives that little touch of sweet with the sour cream. This is just a gorgeous mixture. It smells fantastic. It's going to taste even better. All right. So this is going to chill. We're still waiting on our piroshki dough. So we're going to come back again probably in about an hour, but you guys won't see that. And then we'll roll it out, cut them, and start to fill them and show you how to do that. All right. See you in a bit. All right. So we're back. We've had time to allow our dough to rest. We finished our stuffing for it, the ground pork mixture earlier, and it's now cooled. And so what we're going to do now is start to roll out the dough. So KT has taken it and actually broken it down into some smaller portions instead of that large dough ball. So that was just much more easy for us to kind of control as we're rolling it out. Instead of doing that large one, doing a couple of smaller batches will be nice and easy. So we're going to get to a nice thin layer. And once he's got that rolled out, we're actually going to use just like a biscuit cutter or a ring mold. And we're going to pre-cut our portions. And once we have those cut, then we're going to put our fillings in, fold, crimp, and then put it onto a baking sheet and into the oven. So he's just getting a little bit of flour down so it doesn't stick to the table. It is a little bit of a tacky dough, so that extra flour is super helpful. And we want it to be fairly thin. We don't want the dough so thick that it's hard for us to fold over with the filling. We don't want it to break or crack or anything like that. So if it's fairly thin, we get a little bit more space. It's going to fold much easier than if it's a thick, dense dough. And so he's pretty close. We'll give it just a little bit more coming out this way. And then he'll be able to start cutting those. I think that looks pretty good. What do you think? Good? All right. So go ahead and give a little cut just like so. And so all those are broke free, and try and squeeze as many as you can out of there. We can go through and kind of re-roll the dough if we want to. But remember, every time you kind of reform and re-roll the dough, it's going to make it a little bit denser, a little bit tighter. It's going to kind of tend to overwork it. So the ones at the end, if you keep re-rolling them, will be a little bit tougher than the first batch. So we want to try and not do too many, right? Very nice. So we're going to take these. I've got a little scoop right here. And we're going to put a nice portion of that filling right there. Now go ahead and fold that over. And bring all the edges down. So first use your fingers to just kind of crimp down the edges. And then we'll come through with a fork and finish making sure that we kind of go right in that dough. If you look, all right, and press those two sides together, but I didn't cut it in so it's got like little flyaways or flaps there. And so we're gonna try that one more time, hopefully with a little less mess on the top. We want to keep them nice and pretty there, KT. There we go, the dollop. Gently fold it over. So bring the edges with our fingers and then finish with the fork. And so not all the way through, but just enough so you can feel that both pieces of dough kind of blended together. Check the edge, make sure there's no gap. Is there a gap there? If you see a little gap or a space, go ahead and pinch it one more time. Beautiful. And so these are our finished Piroshkis. So from here, we can either deep fry these if you like that kind of crispy, crunchy crust, or what we're going to do, a little bit of a healthier option, is we're just going to put them onto a lightly greased baking sheet and slip them into a 350-degree oven for about 20 minutes or so until they're golden brown and delicious. Then we'll pull them out, a little dollop of sour cream, some fresh dill on top, and it's going to be gorgeous. So we're going to finish filling these, and then we'll come back and show you the finished product as soon as we're done. Now you can see KT is slowly pulling the Piroshkis out of the oven. They're beautiful golden brown now. Look at how gorgeous those are. And we're just going to take two of these, set them onto the plate, and then you'll be able to see our completely finished Eastern European menu set. Those look great. See, he did a great job pitching those together. They didn't pop open. All right, our classic Russian Piroshkis that the class will serve up today with a traditional beet borscht. We have Kulibiak of the Sea. This is a beautiful pastry that is filled with poached salmon, cabbage, and rice, buttered turnips, and a broiled tomato. And for dessert, we're going to have strawberries Romanov and smetana, which is an apricot jam pie. And we sure wish that you guys could be here to enjoy this fantastic meal, but you're just going to have to see it, and we're going to go eat it. So we'll see you guys all next time.
Wow. I think we need the recipes for the other items as well.
I'll be happy to share any recipes that anybody wants. So that's kind of what we do every Tuesday. So again, last week was Eastern European. So you got to see we put together a full menu. Today, actually, because I just got out of the kitchen, we were doing the continent of Africa. So we did several items from Morocco to Algiers to Zimbabwe to South Africa. So we covered quite a bit there. And so every week we get to pick a different region and study it and put it together and try it. And so that's just a little glimpse into what we do. So I hope you enjoyed kind of watching us make those Piroshkis. And if there's any questions or anything you want me to answer, I'd be happy to. If there's any other recipes or things that you think you might want, I'd be happy to share those as well. That'd be great. And so I'll open up to you guys.
I think there were some questions in the chat.
Okay.
The first, you want to read them, or?
If you got a faster track to them, I can read through, but.
It looks like mainly most of these are comments saying that it looks super good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
At the beginning.
I see one from Angela. If we can do this with a hand mixer. So if you don't have a stand mixer, no big deal. You know what? At home, I don't have one either. You can actually make this dough by hand if you really want to. If you have a small hand mixer, an old rotary mixer, you can use that to cream the butter and cream cheese together. but then you can actually just get in there with your hands and you can fold that flour in by your hands, and pull that dough together just as easily. As a matter of fact, it's even a little bit better. I mean, you guys think we've been making these for hundreds of years and we didn't have stand mixers. And so if you're not using a mixer and you're doing it by hand, it's actually going to be gentler on the dough, so it will not have as much gluten development. So you don't have to have a big fancy mixer to do anything, honestly. It just makes people feel good, and it's a lot faster.
If you do have a a stand-up mixer, which is the attachment, the hook or the other one?
So
the triangle one.
The paddle is what I prefer.
The paddle, okay.
It's gonna cream together well. You don't want to use a whisk attachment because you'll wind up kind of bending up your whisk once the flour and stuff goes in. So I prefer to use the paddle attachment. And then, like you said, we in that video, we actually turned it out. It was just a little bit easier to finish by hand than trying to wait for the dough hook to pull it together. And once KT started doing it by hand, I mean, you guys saw it. It only took just a minute or two to finish out that dough. So someone asked if this will be on YouTube for reference later. I'll leave that to Maria. She's the boss.
We're going to put it on our website, on our International Education Week's website, where you went to register. We're going to, instead of having the link to register, we're looking at putting those in that area there on our website. So and we'll also email it to everyone. I think, Patrick, you're okay. We can share that with.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You can share my email for anyone that wants something specific, whether it be this or if there's any other specific.
What was that dessert at the end? The apricot?
It's called smetana. And so it's actually, so it's like we make an apricot preserve and then we thicken it actually with ground almonds and then put it into a pie crust. And we actually made them as little individual pies versus, one large pie. And then the strawberries Romanoff, which is rum and sour cream. And that's not horrible by any means either. Over fresh fruit is fantastic. So
I just need to get apricots. I have the pie crust and I have the almonds that can ground. So that might be something to try.
So someone mentioned that beet soup. It is delicious.
Yes.
So that borscht, we left it as a broth base. You see it done several different ways, but traditionally it is red beets and beef broth. It's actually, it started off as a chilled soup. And so you can leave it brothy like that with the chunks of vegetables, or you'll see it sometimes where it's pureed into a thicker, creamy style soup. Traditionally it was served chilled, but you can serve it chilled or warm. But it's delicious as well. A little bit of sweetness as well as that earthiness from the beets. It's a gorgeous color. So it always kind of pops against the bowl when you get that kind of deep ruby color from the beets. My big word of wisdom is make sure that you wear a shirt that you don't care about, because once you start cutting and slicing and dicing beets, they stain everything. So be careful. I always tell my guys to put some gloves on to make sure that they don't walk around with red hands for the next couple of days.
There's another question in the chat.
So yes, eventually, once we're back and allowed to hang out with you guys, Mr. Kalunga is here and he probably knows better than anything else. So next semester, I believe we're on track to be in our brand new facility.
Nice.
So we should be able to start back holding classes there, but we still will not have the dining rooms open just yet. So that's obviously, we just need to wait and see how things play out before we can do much else. But we are operating in person in a very limited capacity. I believe we're sitting at probably no more than 7 to 8 students per classroom, so that we can make sure that we kind of keep spread out. It'll actually be a lot better in the new building than where we are now, as far as them being able to use equipment. Right now, we have plenty of space to keep them spread out, but then they all need to go to one burner to cook from. And in the new building, we have equipment spread out all over the kitchen so that they'll really be able to get better hands-on. And then hopefully things will get somewhat back to a normal. And we actually will have 2 different dining facilities in our new building. We have Cafe 1898, which is going to be more of a limited service, kind of casual dining, which is on the first floor of that building. And then our new Artemisia's, which is on the 4th floor and a slight overhang that looks right down Montana Street and has a beautiful view of downtown San Antonio. It just frames the Tower of the Americas beautifully. And this international cuisine class will be serving all of those menu sets out of that dining room. So it is open to the public, and everyone on every campus can come and enjoy lunches with us.
Very nice.
It looks like the last question is any chance of there being an SPC cookbook with these items in there?
I don't know. It's never been brought up. We have no problem with sharing our recipes, and I guess it's never been brought up because whenever someone says, "Can I have the recipe?" I just give it to them. So why make you buy a book if I'll just give you all my recipes for free? So, but it could be in the future. Maybe it'd be a nice little kind of scholarship opportunity or something.
That's what I was thinking. Like it could be a revenue fund that you can generate to their scholarships or something in there.
Scholarship dollar from cookbook sales. That's maybe that's something I'll bring up to my boss and say we need to look at. So
Yeah.
but until then, whatever you want, I'll give you.
Okay, well then let's take advantage before. Maybe you can share the recipes for all the items that you shared with us today, or just like the names. Could you put the names on the chat so we can have them?
Yeah. I've got everything pulled up right here. So let me. So the soup is borscht. Is it? I don't know if I'm typing or not. I'm trying to. For the entree, if you Google it, it is actually gorgeous. It's called Kalibiak. So we did it as an individual item with small portions, but you'll see some really intricate versions where they actually do the pastries around a whole fish, and then they'll cut and carve the pastry to look like the fish as it bakes up, and it's fantastic. Say buttered turnips and grains aren't exactly exciting.
Angela, I think were you trying to speak a little while ago? No? Okay.
I'm just singing to myself because I'm thinking about food right now, and all I want to do is get off here and go into the kitchen and start cooking.
You got motivated, yes.
I'm sure I can probably find all the ingredients. Just trying to make sure I had the hand mixer to do this, because I'm getting kind of arthritis in my hands now. So stirring things hurts.
Yeah.
But if I can use the hand mixer to get it started, then laying out the dough, I can knead it.
Yeah, you can do that. No, I know, especially all those guys that have been in the kitchen for so many years using a knife and grabbing those pans, it's gone. I've got it.
Yeah, that stand mixer helps a lot in that aspect, yes.
Well, maybe I'll get one for Christmas. Might have to start dropping hints on that one.
Yep.
Well, the plus, I mean, we abuse those little KitchenAids.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just from obviously all the doughs and batters and things that we put together, but even all the attachments. So it's got grain grinders that you can buy to put on it, so you can make your own flour. So I know especially a lot of people that have specific allergies can make their own different wheat flours and nut flours and things like that with that grain attachment. It comes with a meat grinder attachment, and she come out on the front. So in my Grand Manger classes, when we start doing charcuterie and making sausage, we use the meat grinding attachment to make all of our sausages that mounts on the front of that KitchenAid. You can get pasta rollers and pasta cutters. So you can roll out your pasta and you can cut. If you want to make your own spaghetti or fettuccine or anything like that, those mount onto the front. They even have an ice cream maker that you
Oh,
can
wow.
mount onto the front of that thing. There's so many different options that I mean, it just makes it worthwhile that you can have one item that can power 5 or 6 different tools that, you know,
Mhm.
used to take up so much space in the kitchen. Now it's much easier to just be able to add those on.
And it used to be that for Christmas, my mom was a teacher. She was a special ed teacher for 37 years. But when we would have the kind of the longer week or winter break, we would do either Italian Christmas, or we're making handmade raviolis and tortellinis and spaghetti and everything. And then I think one year we did a Texas barbecue one. So all of this stuff. Because after a while, you kind of get tired of turkey and ham. But
No,
they're
I
still
get
good.
it.
So, I also belonged with a group of friends that we had kind of like a dinner club and would pick a theme. So I had done a Japanese cuisine,
Okay.
and that was interesting to learn how to do all of the. I think I ended up doing like kind of like a beef stew type thing, but it was wonderful, and we ate mochi for dessert.
Nice. Yeah, we used to do something similar when I was growing up. So I grew up as a military brat, and I was luckily enough to spend most of my time in Europe. My dad was a pilot, and the plane that he flew particularly was stationed only in Europe. So I got to spend my life bouncing around there. And my mom used to set up dinner parties like that where several of the wives and stuff would get together, because we're from all over the world and from different backgrounds. And she would about once a month we'd get together, and all these ladies would come in and teach something from their particular family or their background or their country or whatever. And so it was awesome. I got to spend a lot of time before I ever thought I'd be a chef. I was just a fat kid that liked to eat back then. And I'm just a big fat guy that likes to eat, but still I got to see a lot of cool things, and it kind of helped. And just I never thought that some of those things kind of in the background would come through and help me so much now, you know, and so it really helps that now that I get to be the lead for international cuisine, that I got to have such a firsthand experience with most of these dishes that we are doing and serving. So it's a lot of fun.
Very cool. Well, I'm definitely jealous of y'all's dining room. So who knows? We'll see if I can make it out there. I'm up at NLC, so maybe one of these days.
That's not too far.
I know.
We'll have to make some time for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? So
No.
just so you know, we did put the ingredients on our website. If you need them, you can go there. But we'll also be sharing the list with along with the video for the recipe and everything today through via email, and we'll get the emails from the registrations.
All right.
Well, thank you so much, Chef Costello, for doing this with us during this International Education Week.
No problem. Actually, just really quick, I forgot. I'm putting my email in. I know you'll probably send it out, but just if anyone wants it right now.
Mhm.
If there's any other questions or some specific recipes you want me to try and snag for you, go ahead and shoot me a message. I'll be happy to help in any way I can. And thank you, Maria, and the rest of the team for putting this together. I think it's pretty cool. And I look forward to jumping in and watching some of these other events that you guys have going on.
Yes, we do. We still have 3 more days of a lot of events going on. Just go to their website if you haven't registered. If you have time, you're welcome to register still.
I see we've got the Basilica coming up. I saw the Louvre.
Yeah, the Louvre has a lot of registrations, so I'm not sure if it's limited. Elisa, do you remember?
No, that one's unlimited. Well, I don't think we're gonna reach hundreds. Well, I don't know, maybe.
Well, the plus side is
Okay.
I get to just wait till next year and take my students in person. So
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Student.
Yeah. Hopefully we can travel again next year. So we can take the students again.
I hope so. I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get back to it soon, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
right,
well, I
good.
think we're good now. So we'll be in touch with everyone with the information that was shared today. Thank you for joining us.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Great job.
Bye. Thank you.